Alright, hello world, welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll be building this tool. It's called Codinterview. So, this is a web application that I wrote in Node.js. So let me just show you briefly on what does it do. So this is just one part of it. The entire project is about basically it's sort of like any sort of code interview platform where you can let live edits, run code. It tells you what error you get or whatever or something like that. Anyway, so right now it's just a good old code interface that's similar to I think most leak code problem because that's how you want to design it to be. But I think I have the code flip flop. Usually code is on the right on leak code. Problem descriptions on the left. But anyway, so if you look at it, that's a coding interface. We have a problem description. Given an integer x, return true if x is a palindrome and false otherwise. For now, this tool only supports programming in Python, but it depends on how many languages your compiler can support. It's changing. It's relatively easy. For compiling, though, we're just going to utilize a third-party API that's pretty consistent, I would say. Downtime is pretty much 0. So let's go ahead and just, I can press run, and as you can see, it shows me this error. And if I want, I can just return any sort of value, return true, for example. And now you can see one test case passed, but other failed. Now, of course, I can also just do this like this, right? So if I press, oh my god, okay. So if I do that, this is a little bit awkward. So one bug that this platform has, if you have print statement, that's going to give you error. If you have print, you have to use this debug tool. Reversed. Okay. To string. Okay, you know what? Can't believe I'm struggling on this palindrome question. That's not even the whole point. Oh my god. Okay. Are you kidding me? Okay. Well, looks like we have to take the hard way. I can't believe I'm actually solving a question that's literally not the point, but okay. Anyway, because we're gonna do this. Alright, so then I'm gonna say reverse equals chars dot reverse. Okay, let me make sure this works. Okay, so this works. Alright, now reverse stir is dot join chars return reverse stir equals stir x. So yeah, as you can see now it works, right? And of course I can still do a debug. It will print any sort of stand out, and then you can change the number. For example, I expect false, run code. As you can see, now I print out false. So that's a platform we'll be building. So this is one of the few projects where I have the code already. So there won't be, hopefully at least, that much of me trying to figure out what went wrong and then debug. I know some of you will get annoyed, but so this project is written in a fashion that it's built in a fashion that I already did the project. So I have all the code. By the way, if you want to play with the platform, feel free to go to codeinterview.herokuapp.com. I will leave the GitHub that I have into the description down below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So this interface, I think what we can get started is by designing probably, we'll see how it went, honestly. So let's go to package.json first. So a couple of things we have to change. We'll just change the name. So by the way, I'm using Replit, which is an online coding platform. If you don't know, if you're trying to start I use Replit because it's pretty quick to spawn some of the quick application like this. But if you are trying to start a NPM project, so NPM stands for Node Package Manager, and this entire project is written in Node and with Express server, so it's not one of our usual Flask Python thingy. The reason it's not that is because of something else we will do is basically will allow a voice chat. That is mainly supported in Node, so that's why the entire project is written in Node.js. So I guess we'll change a couple things first. So name, I'm just gonna call it Codinterview. But yeah, so if you're using local environment, make sure you have it installed, have npm installed, have Node installed. Go to nodejs.org, install the latest stable version, and then I think you can, in your terminal or PowerShell, you can type npm in it, and then it will pop this up. So that's really the only thing you have to worry about. Let's see. So version, yep, whatever, script. So okay, so script, we're gonna have a start, and that's gonna be node server.js. What is that? We'll worry about that later. Dependencies. Okay. Dependency. So it looks like we need express colon 4.17.1. We need JS YAML 4.1.0. We also need request, which is 2.81. I don't even know how this versioning works. Okay. Looks like that's all we need. I'm going to change the license to MIT. Alright, anyway, let's run it. I will do npm install on all of them. So while that load, oh wait. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Express, it's fine. So this is my first project built using Express as well. So Express is really not that hard. In fact, I found it's really similar to Flask, which is a micro web framework written in Python, which is what we most do in this channel. But as we'll see, it's really similar. So if you don't know JavaScript, you might still want to have some fundamental JavaScript JavaScript knowledge. I will link. I believe I did a YouTube tutorial series on JavaScript. I will link that in the description down below as well. Feel free to check that out. So anyway, in here we'll just set up our Express app. So this is how you can import it. And then we need const http http const password. We don't really need semicolon, honestly. Let's get it. Equals require pass. Okay, so const app equals express. Okay, so then in here we'll do a const.port, which will be process.env, so that's how we can do environment variable. Word just 8,000 if it's empty. Okay, so then here we'll do const file system, if I remember this correctly. We'll use that to do something. I will show you what that is in a bit. Like that. YAML const rec equals require request const body parser equals require body parser and const stringify. So don't get so right now we're just writing these import. Don't get overwhelmed with them. I know it's maybe really easy to get overwhelmed, but don't worry. When we get to it, when we start using this dependency, I'll explain to you what each of them do. Okay. I believe that's it. Okay, so I think we have the basics set up. Let's see. So. Ooh, okay, I see a problem already. Because let's see if I can do this without. Oh, never mind. I think I can just do app.use pure, not pure. Okay, I believe I can just do. Give me a second. Let me see. Oh, I need to actually create a server. Const server equals http dot create server. I'm gonna use an app like that, and then I can do server dot listen, and then I can just put the port here. All right. Let's wait for all of that to happen. Okay. npm run start. Let's see if that will trigger it. Yep, perfect. All right. So yeah, as you can see now, have our Node app or Express app running up in the cloud right here. As you can see right now, just cannot get slash because we don't have an index route defined. But as you can see here, we have all these dependency imported. Notice we use variable keyword const. That means constant. All right, that means constant, which means this variable name cannot be changed. I cannot say YAML equals 2, for example. That will give you an error. That will constantly mean in programming language like Python doesn't really have these constant checking. You can write in all cap and just hope they don't change it. But in other dynamically typed language like JavaScript, they have these variable keyword like const where it actually forbids you from changing it. So that's that. All right. So if at any point have a question in this video, feel free to comment down below. I'm not that familiar with Node Node or Express, so we'll see how this is going to go. Alright, so I think I'm going to explain really quickly how the file structure is going to work. So if we go to a website, we can, every time we refresh the page, it will randomly pick a problem from its problem set, sort of. So there will be a directory or a folder in the code itself, or in the, not this code, but the actual website code, that have a bunch of different problems. and it's structured in .yaml format. YAML stands for yet another markup language. It's similar to JSON, another way to represent language, or another way to represent, structured file. But as you can see, so in that file, in the problems folder, that's where we will have all these problem sets coming up, right? All these problems. So let's create one called problems. And in here, we're just going to add one of them. I'm going to call it palindrome.yaml. Okay, palindrome.yaml. So in here, we're going to have a couple properties defined. First is name, which is palindrome number. File name is palindrome.yaml. Description, so that's a problem set description. Given an integer x, return true if x is a palindrome, where it's the same when you read it forward and backward, and false otherwise, like that. And then in here, we're going to have boilerplate -python. Usually you shouldn't use dash, but I just used it for some reason. And then kind of switch between dash and underscores. So that's kind of my bad. So this is like the boilerplate that we'll see on the, the coding interface. Like that. So since right now the program doesn't really support saving code, every time we load a problem, it will load this boilerplate up. And as you can see, it's structured really just similar to how LeetCode does it. It's in a class, and then in the class there's a method. Okay, so these are just logistic stuff, right? It can be whatever, but what I think the key to this feature is running code itself. So I made this file. This file is supposed to be really adaptable, so which means you can really easily customize it to different sort of problem. So in here, we're going to have an input argument. That just shows us, okay, how many arguments are we going to have to provide it in the input? And for example, our inputs, or the only input argument in this problem is x. So we're just going to say 1. And then here we're going to say test Python init. So this is how we're going to test if the thing is, so this is how we're going to actually create an object like that. So that's like we're initializing it. And then test Python command. So there's probably better ways to do it, but how I test it is I just print the output dot palindrome number arg0. So how it works is it will replace arg0 with whatever the actual argument is, right? So arg0 itself is a boilerplate. Now I know you can probably use assert or something like that, where it gives you a true or false, which will be easier for us to check, but it is what it is. We'll work with it for now. And then here is a list of arguments. In this case, we only have an x, and that's it. So we're going to have another thing called checks. Checks basically is these checks, okay? So these sample checks, inputs, expected, actual, all right? So they're structured a little bit weird. They're structured like this. It's a nested list. Okay, the reason I make them a nested list is primarily because I wanted to. Just kidding. It's because what's going to happen if we have multiple arguments, right? Then they will be in a same list, same inner list, and then all these possible checks will be wrapped in a bigger input list. So that's why we have, I don't know, like a nested list format. Outputs will be slightly different, since outputs usually, or most of the time, it's either true or false, where it will only give you one number. so it's not really like nested list format. It's like that. And then I'm gonna have tests, which is to test if it worked or not. I'm not sure if I actually implemented it correctly, because I don't think I did that. Yeah. Okay. But if I don't know, if I just say return, let me we'll see. Okay. So tests in here are gonna do inputs 1 2 3 4 5 negative 5 4 3 2 1 5 4 3 2 1 1 2 3 2 1 outputs false 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 true. Now obviously as you can see, well, what happened they just write if statements for all these possible test cases. Well, that is indeed a problem, but I mean you can just increase it to, I don't know, some monstrous amount so that so that it's not gonna be able to easily do an if-else statement. Okay, but that's generally the problem structure that we'll see here. Okay, so that's a problem structure. All right, so whenever you create a new problem, you will just create another YAML file under the problems and just copy and paste this file. Okay, now let's get to the fun part, which is actually coding the backend, which we don't have much time left actually. Okay, so I think what we'll just get to do is we're just going to create a route. We're gonna create a route. All right. And so how do we create a route is we're going to write app.get. Get is get request. That's what it stands for. So then, well, what's our route? It's going to be /API/problem. And we're going to have two things. We're going to have request and response. Okay, so it's really similar. So this is kind of similar to what Django does. Django taking a request, and then it's well, not necessarily taking a response. We'll just return the response our own in Django, but in Express. Sorry, I forgot the web server. In Express, it will actually take in a response for each individual route. So in here, we're going to use the file directory. So as you can see, that's what it's for. This is just going to join the dir name. So dir name is just going to be a Boolean variable that's, I believe, the root directory of the project. And then problems is just a pass to the problems folder. And then in here, all we're going to do is we're just going to say fc.readdir. Going to read all the directories in this pass. And then we're going to then we're going to do a function. We're going to have a callback function. Going to take in errors and then take in files. If error, that means if error exists, right? So we're just going to return console.log unable to scan directory. And then why? Well, we're just going to add the error. Otherwise, we're just going to say file is files mass dot floor mass dot random times files dot lengths, like that. File data is YAML.load. So what we're doing here is we're picking a random number. Okay, so picking a random number from the total length of this array. So files is going to be an array or a list, and from this array, and then we're going to floor it, which means to round up. Okay, so that's how these formula works. Unfortunately, in JavaScript, there's not a really like a random library that take care of everything for you, where you can just do random.randint. You actually need to do some mass manipulation like this, but don't worry about it for too much. And then here we're going to use a synchronous method, read file synchronous. And now we're going to do pass.join, dir name, problems, and then file. So now we're actually going to pick a file, and then we're going to read the file, and then we're going to parse it using our YAML structure. Okay? And we're just going to say console.log file.data, and then we'll do response.json file data. Okay? So as you can see, we don't necessarily have to do a return. We just have to write response.json. Then it will just return the JSON data. Okay? So now, in order to see if it works or not, we'll just say /API/problem. Is it /problem or /problem? Okay. So if I remember correctly, it doesn't have auto refresh. So I have to restart server every time. npm run start. And as you can see, perfect. This is parsed correctly as how we would expect it to. Alright, so this is about time. I will go ahead and end the video now. If you have any question or comment, feel free to comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and smash that like button if you haven't already. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or comment, feel free to comment down below. And as always, stay safe and have a great rest of your day. DevsMeet out.